Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. So today we are going to learn a basic chess tactic called as spin. Okay. So in pin we will learn three different things. First is what is spin. Second is how to identify and play the pin. And third is what are the advantages of pin. Okay. So let me start by giving an example. What is spin? Okay. Many a times you must be stuck in the situation where you are not able to move a piece. Okay, for example, in this puzzle, now here if it is black to play, black cannot move its bishop. Okay, black cannot move its bishop because if black moves the bishop, the king is directly under the attack. Okay, the king is directly under the attack, and that's why black cannot move its bishop. This situation is called as pin. Okay, this situation is called as pin. Now, in this case, if this is the setup, we can say the bishop is pinned. Okay, we can say the bishop is pinned. Okay, in easy words, if you want to understand, a pinned piece is a piece which cannot move. Okay, a pinned piece is a piece which cannot move. You can say its place is locked. Okay, now this bishop is locked, it cannot move. Now if it is black to play, obviously black cannot play the bishop, so it has to play the king somewhere. As soon as it unpins the bishop, white can capture the bishop. Okay, that was about the pin. Now in same example, consider instead of king there is a queen here. Okay, instead of king there is a queen here. Now tell me, can this black bishop move? Okay, legally yes, it can move here, but then it has to pay the price, which is queen. Okay, now what is the difference between the previous puzzle and this puzzle? In this puzzle, the black bishop can move, but the consequence will be that it has to give up its queen. But in previous puzzle, where there was a king, this bishop was not in a position to move. Moving the bishop would be considered as illegal move. But in this case, moving a bishop is considered as legal move, but the black has to face the consequences, which is losing a major piece. Okay, now obviously these two types of pins are different, and these are the only two types of pin. Okay, the first is absolute pin. Okay, the absolute pin is where the piece which is pinned cannot move at all under any circumstances. Okay, if the pinned piece cannot move under any circumstances, it is called as absolute pin. And relative pin is a pinned piece can move, but it will have the consequences. Okay, the pinned piece can move, but it will have the consequences. That is known as relative pin. Okay, now to sum it up in easy words, we can say a pin wherever the king is involved is known as absolute pin, and a pin wherever the king is not involved is known as relative pin. Okay, a pin where the king is involved is known as absolute pin, and the pin where the king is not involved is known as relative pin. And there are two types of pin, absolute and relative. Okay, now that was all about pin. Now second, coming to the point, how to find a pin. Okay, how to find a pin or how to play a pin. Okay, to find the pin, you need to find two pieces which are in same line of attack. Okay, for example, here in this position, the queen and the bishop are in a same line of attack. The bishop and the queen are in a same line of attack. Because the line of attack is straight, I can use only rook because bishop moves diagonally, and knight moves 2.5 squares. Yes, queen could have been used, but again, if there is only one possibility, which is rook, so I can bring the rook here, pinning the bishop. Okay, so whenever you find two pieces in the same line of attack, there is a high chance that you can pin a piece over there. Okay, similarly, let's make this example a slight different. If there would have been a rook here, and let's say fight had a bishop. Now again, these two pieces are in the same line of attack. The line is diagonal, which means there is a possibility that we can find a pin here. Okay, so here moving the bishop to f3 would pin the rook. Okay, now this rook is absolutely pinned because in this pin the king is involved. Okay, now coming to the third point, what is the advantage of a pin? Okay, what is the advantage of a pin? In pin, the advantage is most probably we will win that piece. Okay, most probably we will win the piece which is pinned. For example, here if it is white to play, we can directly capture the piece. Okay, now in some cases you cannot win the piece directly because it is guarded. Okay, let us say if I take this example. Okay, now here the piece is pinned, the knight is pinned. Okay, I cannot capture the knight directly because if I capture, the pawn can capture my rook, and here I am losing. Okay, but now I have found the pinned piece. I know that the knight is pinned. So what would I do? I would pile up on pinned piece. Okay, whenever we say the pile up, we means we need to add more attackers on that piece. As of now, there is only one attacker and one defender. Let me mark that with blue, one defender. Now, if I add one more attacker, now there are two attackers and only one defender. Now, black cannot move the knight because moving the knight would be illegal because this is an absolute pin. In absolute pin, the piece cannot be moved. Okay, they can play the king to unpin the knight, but by the time they move the knight, we can just capture it. Okay, so three things we have learned here. First, the definition of pin. In that, we have learned there are two types of pin, absolute pin and a relative pin. Second, we have learned how to identify a pin. How? Whenever there are two pieces in the same line of attack, there is a high chance of winning. And third, what to do of a pinned piece. Pinned piece can be captured easily, and if not, we pile up on the pinned piece. How do we pile up? We add more number of attackers to it. Okay, now let us understand more about this through puzzles. Okay, okay, here in this puzzle we are team white and we need to take a advantage of pinned piece of team black. Okay, now if you see, these two pieces are in the same line of attack and the bishop has pinned the pawn. Okay, now I know that this pawn is pinned. How can I take the advantage? Because this pawn is absolutely pinned, it cannot move. Okay, I know that, so I can just bring the rook here. When I bring the rook here, I'm giving a double attack, attacking the king and a queen at the same time. This pawn unfortunately cannot capture the rook because it is pinned. Yes or no? Yeah, so even if queen takes the rook, we can just take the queen, and here we have a 4 points advantage. Okay, let's go to the another puzzle. In this puzzle, we are white and we know that this piece, I mean this knight and this knight both are pinned, and both the pins are absolute pin. Okay, this knight cannot move because the rook is attacking. This knight cannot move because the bishop is attacking. Okay, and what we have learned? We have learned to pile up on a pinned piece. I know that this is a pinned piece and it has one attacker and one defender. Okay, You might say that this is a defender, but no, because this is absolutely pinned, it cannot defend the knight. So what would I do? I will I will add one more attacker on this knight. Okay. Now, no matter what black plays, let's say if they play it here, I can just play this and give a fork. Okay, which don't allow them to play the king here. King cannot come here because the knight is guarding that square. Any other move that they play will lead to losing a knight. Okay, because it was a pinned knight, and now we got a 6 points instead of 3. Okay, so here we have a material advantage. We won a free knight. Okay, coming to the next puzzle. Okay, in this puzzle we are team black, and we need to identify a piece which is pinned in team white and take the advantage. We know that this piece is pinned because the bishop is attacking the king. Okay, that means if I put a pressure on this piece, then it is highly possible that I can checkmate the king. Okay, so I will take a queen here and I will try to attack this. Okay, now here we have a double advantage. Apart from attacking this, we can also attack this pawn, because this pawn here is absolutely pinned and it cannot do anything to us. Let us say if they capture the bishop, avoiding taking this pawn, but that is of no use because now the pawn is unpinned, but by the time it plays, we can checkmate the king. Okay, moving on to the next puzzle. Here we are team white and we need to play a pinned puzzle, a correct sequence for team black. Now I know that this rook is going to capture this rook. Okay, so to avoid that, what can I do is I can just pin the rook. Okay, now if you see, this rook can move, but moving this rook would have a consequence. The consequence would be losing the queen, and therefore it is a relative pin. It's not absolute pin, it's a relative pin because no king is involved. Now this rook cannot take this rook, because if it takes, we get the queen for free. Okay, also if you see this rook, it has two attackers and only one defender. So no matter what black plays next, I can just capture this rook. Okay, so that was it for the pin. If you want the link of these puzzles, it's giving in the description box. You can just click on the link and practice these puzzles. Okay, bye bye, take care and keep practicing.